What is this? Do you know what this is? Look at that crazy looking thing. What is this? Do you know what this thing is called in English? Well, I'll tell you. It's called a Leatherman. A Leatherman. Actually, it's not. It's called a multi-tool. Leatherman is the name of a company that makes multi-tools. Okay, so Leatherman is the name of the company, and multi-tool is just the generic name for these things. Do you know what the word generic means? Generic. Well, I'll give you an example. Take a look at this bottle. Okay, this bottle says Rock Mountain Soda Water. Rock Mountain Soda Water. So what is inside here? What kind of product is in here? Well, it's soda water, right? Soda water is just the generic name for water that has bubbles, fizz, right? It's fizzy water, okay? But the company name is Rock Mountain, right? So if you came over to my house and I wanted to offer you something to drink, what would I say? Well, I could say, hey, do you want a soda water? Would you like a soda water? Okay, I wouldn't say, would you like a rock? Would you like a rock? Because you wouldn't know what I'm talking about. You'd say, what do you mean? What's a rock? Okay, well, soda water is the generic name. You understand that, right? You wouldn't understand the company name. But very often in English, the company name, the brand name of a product becomes even more common than the generic name. Okay? Isn't that crazy? I'm going to give you a lot of examples here. So actually, Leatherman is the most popular company that makes multi-tools like this. This isn't even the brand Leatherman. This brand is Gerber. Okay? So this multi-tool is made by a company called Gerber. So actually, it would be wrong for me to call this a Leatherman. But if you go to Canada or the US, very often people will call something like this a Leatherman. Even though it's not really a Leatherman, it's a Gerber multi-tool. Okay, so like I said, sometimes these product names become so popular that they replace the generic name, and sometimes we don't even know what the generic name is. Okay, I'll start with this. So what is this? Take a look at that. Do you know what these are? Well, this is a Q-tip. Okay, here is a bag of Q-tips. Q-tips. Okay, but Q-tip is the brand name. Q-tip isn't the generic name for these things. I don't even know what the generic word is. I'm in Thailand right now, so it's just Thai writing on this package. You can see the brand name is Evergreen. Evergreen. Okay, so it doesn't even say Q-tips on here. I don't know what the generic name is. I think it might be like cotton buds or something like that. It's funny because I use Q-tips every day and I don't even know what the generic word is. Let's see if my ears are dirty. Is there any wax? Nope, look at that. My ears are clean. There's no wax in my ears. Okay, so the word Q-tip has become so popular that it has completely replaced the generic name. For this, I don't even know what the generic thing is. Okay, it's similar to this. What's this? If I cut my finger and there's blood coming out, well, I need to put this on my finger. Okay, do you know what it's called? Well, it's called a Band-Aid. A Band-Aid. But actually, Band-Aid is the brand name. Band-Aid is the brand name. It's not the generic name. You can't make something like this and call it a Band-Aid, because then that company is going to sue you for stealing the name, right? On here it says Tigerplast, right? It doesn't say Band-Aid because it's not a Band-Aid. It's a different name. But everybody calls this a Band-Aid. If you go to Canada or the US, there is no other name for this. People don't call it a plaster. People would call it a Band-Aid. But I think the word plaster or plastic bandage I think, yeah, there are different kinds of bandages, but the word bandage would be like the generic name, but everybody knows it's a Band-Aid. Okay, so I'm going to give you lots of examples of these. So these two examples are examples where the brand name has completely replaced the generic name, right? If, like I said, in Canada and the US, everybody calls these Q-tips and everybody calls these Band-Aids. Now, there are some regional differences. Sometimes it might be where the brand hasn't completely replaced the generic name. Sometimes it depends on where you are. Okay, so let's say I have a runny nose and I need to blow my nose. What would I do? I would use one of these. Now, what's this called in English? Well, this is called a tissue. Okay, so if you are in the US, you should say, could I have a tissue? Okay, but in Canada, we have another word. The word is Kleenex. Okay, in Canada, you'd say, I'm going to use a Kleenex to blow my nose. Could I have a Kleenex? Could you pass me the box of Kleenex? Okay, but actually, Kleenex is the brand name, right? Kleenex is the brand that makes tissues. So in the US, they would call this a tissue. In Canada, we would call it a Kleenex. Okay, so that's an example of sometimes it depends on which region of the world you're in, which determines the word or the most common word for a thing. Okay, another example of that is the word jacuzzi. Now, I think the word jacuzzi is just a Canadian word. It might be American, don't quote me on that, but in Canada, a jacuzzi is a very popular thing. A lot of Canadians have jacuzzis in their house. Okay, do you know what a jacuzzi is? A jacuzzi is like a small hot tub in your house. It might be in your bathroom, sort of like a big bathtub, or you might have a jacuzzi outside on your deck. You can go and sit in your jacuzzi even when it's really cold. It might be snowing, and you see Canadians sitting in their jacuzzi on their deck outside in like minus 20 degree weather. So that's what a jacuzzi is. But Jacuzzi is the name of the company. Jacuzzi makes other things too. Jacuzzi makes toilets, right? But nobody calls a toilet a jacuzzi. Canadians know what a jacuzzi is. When you say the word jacuzzi, people think of like a small hot tub or a big bathtub with like water jets, so if you're sitting in the jacuzzi, the water sort of massages your body. So that's a jacuzzi. So that's another example of how a word sort of takes over. I think the word jacuzzi is really popular in Canada. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's in the US, but that's another example of maybe how it could be a regional difference. Maybe over in England or in Australia, maybe they don't have jacuzzis like we have in Canada. Okay, let's take a look at another example here. What's this? See that little strip? That's a strip of what? Do you know? What's that called? See? There's two pieces here. Now look at that. Now listen. Oh, I guess my microphone is over here, so I should do it here. What's that called? Do you know? Well, in English, it's called Velcro. Velcro. But actually, Velcro is a trademark name. You can't make something like this and sell it under the name Velcro. You could make this, but you have to call it something else. What would you call it? What is the generic word for this? I have no idea. I have no idea what this would even be called. How would you describe that? Little plastic hooks that attach themselves to soft fabric. I don't know what you would call this. Okay, it's just called Velcro. Everybody knows it's called Velcro. So there's another example of how the word, the brand name or the trademark name has completely replaced the generic name. I don't even know what it is. Okay, so there are some things like that. Like, for example, this is another example. What is this? Do you know? Listen. Okay, you might like popping this. If you order something online and it's fragile, like a camera or something, it will come wrapped in bubble wrap. Okay, this is called bubble wrap. Everybody knows it's called bubble wrap, but actually bubble wrap is a trademark name. Okay, a company called Sealed Air Corporation invented bubble wrap. Okay, and they trademarked the name. So you can't make this and sell it under the name bubble wrap. You know, I'm not sure if you can make this and sell it under a different name. I don't know how trademark law works or anything, but it's called bubble wrap. I don't even know what the generic word for this would be. Air inside plastic bubbles. I don't know. The word bubble wrap is a great name because it's like little bubbles of air and you use it to wrap things. So bubble wrap is a very common sense name. If you can get everybody to start using your name for a product, then that's great. You know, then you're walking along in a store and you see a product, and if everybody knows, for example, medicine in Canada and the US, you might buy Tylenol or Advil. Okay, those are the two most common. In Canada anyway, you know, if people have a headache, they go and they buy Tylenol or Advil. But those are just brand names. Those aren't the real name of the medicine, right? Tylenol is actually acetaminophen. But the brand name is Tylenol. And it's very smart for Tylenol to have marketed itself so aggressively, because now when people have a headache, they don't say, I need some acetaminophen. They say, I need a Tylenol. So they go to the store and they don't look for acetaminophen. Actually, there are lots of companies that make acetaminophen tablets, but they look for Tylenol and they just grab the brand Tylenol, which is always more expensive than the generic brands, right? There's usually, when it comes to medicine in Canada, there's the brand name and then the generic name, right? In Canada, for example, a generic would be like Rexall. The Rexall brand in Canada is sort of the generic, the cheaper one, and then Tylenol or Advil or, you know, all the other ones. Tums, for example. Tums is like an antacid for the stomach, but again, Tums is the name of a brand, and there are normal, what are they called? Calcium tablets, or I don't even know. Everybody just calls those Tums. Okay, so there's another example. Take a look at this bag. Okay, this bag is called a Ziploc bag. Look at that. You can put your food in there and you zip it up and it's locked. Okay, everybody knows this is called a Ziploc bag, but Ziploc is the name of the brand. It's not the generic name. I don't even know what the generic name is. Maybe just a locking bag? A locking bag? I don't know. Everybody calls this a Ziploc bag. Okay, here's another example. This is called cling wrap. You can see there, cling wrap. Now, I've seen this with different names. Some people call it saran wrap, or cellophane wrap. I think this material is called cellophane. Okay, and now I know for sure the word saran wrap, that's a brand name, saran wrap. Okay, I'm not sure if cling wrap is a brand name or if it's a generic name. I think cellophane wrap, I'm pretty sure that would be a generic name. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, this is just so common. Sometimes we don't even know what the generic word is or what the brand name is. Okay, take a look at this. What is this? This material, this is called Styrofoam. Styrofoam, but again, Styrofoam is the name of a brand. It's not the generic name. Now, it's become the generic name. Okay, so that's the point. A lot of these brand names have become the only generic name that people use. I don't know what this stuff would be called. The only word is Styrofoam. Okay, so sometimes the only word we can use is, like, I have no idea what this would be called. For a Q-tip, you could say, like, maybe a cotton bud or cotton swab on the end of a stick. Whereas with this, how would you describe it? It's like foam, but there are lots of kinds of foam, right? Your bed mattress might be made of foam, but it's not this. It's not Styrofoam, right? So, you know, it's just complicated. This is confusing stuff. Okay, or take a look at this knife. Do you know what this knife is called in English? Well, you could call this an X-acto knife. Look at that, an X-acto knife. But X-acto, again, is the name of a company or the name of a brand. Okay, I think the generic word for this might be box cutter. But then again, maybe box cutter is the name of a company too. I don't know. I don't know what the generic name for this is, but everybody, if you go to Canada or the US and you call this a box cutter or an X-acto knife, you know, everybody would understand that. I would understand. Those are the only two words I can think of for this. You know, what would you say? A knife that you push up with your thumb and you can break off the pieces when they get blunt. I don't know. I have no idea. So you can see how common this is in English. And if you're learning English, you might have a question like, why is this? This is just so common. Or maybe you haven't realized it. Well, now I'm telling you how common it is. Right? Imagine if I gave a presentation and I made the presentation on my computer, made the slides, right, and then had a projector and projected my presentation and then stood up and said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to give you a presentation about medicine. Here are some statistics, right? I'm showing you a PowerPoint presentation. Now, what if I was using my Apple laptop? Well, then it wouldn't be PowerPoint, right? Because PowerPoint is actually the name of a piece of software from Microsoft. Okay, so Microsoft came out with PowerPoint, right? Like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint. Apple cannot use those names, right? So on my MacBook, I have another program called Keynote. It's sort of the same idea as PowerPoint. But if I'm giving a presentation, you know, it would be more common to say I'm giving a PowerPoint presentation, even though actually it's not a PowerPoint, it's a Keynote, right? So you can just see how often we use these words in English. It's just mind-boggling. So I just wanted to sort of open your mind to that. There are so many. These are just a few examples, right? I just thought of a few examples in a few minutes. That's how common this is for a brand name to replace the generic name. So I hope that helps you sort of, I don't know, just think about, you know, the names of English things, right? Like different things you see, like Sprite or 7-Up or Coke, Pepsi, you know, all these different things that sort of sometimes they can take on a whole new, they can just take over the whole market, you know. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say in this lesson, just talk about that. And actually I was going to teach you the names of these different tools, but I wasted all that time talking about, you know, generic names and brand names. So you'll have to subscribe to my channel and find out what some of these tools are called in my next lesson. So hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you over in the next episode of Multi-Tool TV. Take care.